Okay, I am back. And I am still working on Birch, who is one of the members of the White Council. I'm I'm still using the rendered image as my reference for a lot of the shadows. A lot of the shadows are also just um, my own reinterpretation. Doing both, but mostly taking my cues from the rendered image, which, generally speaking, in my process, that's what I do kind of throughout. I've talked about this before, but um, I tend to take cues from the rendered image rather than follow my gut because my gut instinct is really nothing. Like I've indicated in the past, I have not kept in practice with sketching and drawing. Um, so, in large part, I don't really know what I'm doing, sadly. Um, so I kind of depend on the image that I've generated to show me what it is that I should do because I like the way that the image that I've generated looks. So that's a good template for me to use for making my picture look the way I would like. So in this process, does it take longer to make the generated image or to draw and color my image? It definitely takes a lot longer to draw and color than it does to generate the image. Pardon me while I chew. So when I put in a shadow like this, I sort of immediately regret it. I'm going to take it back out. And the reason why is I intend to make this whole space black. And if I put in this shadow, this curve of his cloth pants coming down is going to go away. Now, that actually might be fine. Um, might even look better that way. But I have, in my inexperience, I have trepidation about whether or not that's going to look right or it's just going to be a thing that I have to correct later. So I'm going to back off on that one. I'm not going to do that right now. I do feel like I've established over here that his frock is casting a shadow. And so I want to continue that to some degree. So I will. And I think I'll just, like I'm going to angle it up. So whether or not this is correct for the writing, for the lighting, goodness, um, I want to preserve this as much as I can. And we'll see what it looks like after I get done shading everything in. I was kind of hoping to be done with all of the White Council drawings by now, but I have spent some additional time on this one, and I think that's okay. I could have spent more time on any of the drawings, and in fact, I probably will end up spending more time on all of them. My initial thought was to just get the sketch version out and done, and then go from there. And I think I'm kind of working with that as my direction for this project. Just want to get the sketch out. But for this sketch, kind of like also for the Villigau sketch and the Will sketch, I think there's just enough information here that I can get some of this. I can get more hard shadows in this than with some of the other ones. Some of the other ones just didn't feel like uh, doing really hard black shadows would do much for the sketch. Like I'd rather do the shading in the color. So if I color it, then oops, hit the microphone. Sorry about that. If I color it, then I'll get into the shading. But for a lot of this, I think just hard shadows would not help. But for Birch, I do think hard shadows are going to be helpful. And so I think, I kind of got into adding a little more into this drawing. Um, that's a mistake. Okay. This is part of what hard shadows do for me too, is they start to kind of define the shapes that need to be defined. Like that's a leather strap. That's a leather strap. I just put a shadow in the leather strap, which doesn't make sense. Um, so the shadow itself will help me not to do that. Something like that. Shadows give, dimension to things. Kind of the first step in taking this from being okay to being really great, I feel. No toenails. I should be adding toenails, but I'm not at this point adding any toenails. To his toes, obviously. His toes would be what get the toenails. Maybe a little more here. I'm not sure. Okay, so now the question is, how am I going to shade, like this really big, thick, black area in the drawing? How much of it is going to be like a hard black, and how much of it am I going to, just kind of leave for later? Well, I'm not going to do all of it as a hard black. I think that would look weird. It might not. It might look excellent. But I think it would look weird, so I'm not going to do it. There's a little independent thought for you. Not just following the render. Not all the time. Now, part of the reason for doing this as a stream or as a video is I do get a significant amount of comments of people saying, wow, you're an incredible artist. And while I don't reject those comments outright, I do feel like um, you might need more information if you're thinking that, right? Like, I'm not comfortable with you saying that I'm any good at art if you don't understand my process. Because my process for me is just the easiest, quickest way to get to the end result that I can think of. And it is not, in my opinion, as good or as skillful as what I would describe as better artists are doing. And so when I hear you're a good artist, I feel like I'm being lumped in with people who are clearly better than me, clearly more skilled. And like some of the people I'm thinking of right now in this moment that I would say are much better than I am, they don't even spend more time than I do. You know, if anything, they spend less time because they are skillful. Like they can look at a picture that they're working on and they can immediately determine, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z to finish this and make it look good because they have the skill and experience to do that. Whereas I end up spending a lot of time looking at it going, I don't feel like it's quite right. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to stare at it until something comes to me. So when I feel like I'm being lumped in with people who, in my opinion, are clearly more significant, more skillful artists than I am, that's when I start making all of these caveats, right? Start feeling the need to tell you, look, I'm basically just tracing. I'm not an artist at all. Now, I don't know. I think that's maybe a little too far, but definitely you can see what I'm saying. At least for this part, I am. I'm just tracing. That's it. That's what I'm doing. And tracing is an oft maligned technique. But look, my justification remains the same. Like in my mind, I have an idea of who Birch is as a person, how he fits into the story, what kind of a mage he is, what he's like physically. And those things in my mind are what I'm going to use to make this render. So, as being an artist, just having a vision, pardon me, like for instance, I've known some people who do like stage design. Oop, bump the mic again. Let me move it a little bit. They do stage design, right? So they figure out what's going to go on the stage and where, what it's all going to look like. They think about how the lighting's going to be, what kind of materials are going to complement the thing that's going to be happening on the stage, right? And I would say that a lot of what they do as a person doing stage design, very artistic. Now, they're not making any of the fabric, okay? They're not even doing the performance that brings out the artistry of what they're doing. They're expressing a vision. And it's a skill that the other people involved don't have. That's why they're hired to do it. The other people involved want to focus on what they're doing, on their part of the presentation. So they want to offload designing the stage to somebody who knows what they're doing, which is great. That's what they should do. So yeah, I would call them an artist. So I don't think being an artist, I don't think you can just pare that down to just having a specific skill set. I don't think that works. Um, so if you want to do a drawing or a painting, and all you have is your vision, but you don't have the technique to make it happen. Um, you're not knowledgeable or skillful enough to do that part, but you definitely have a vision for what it should be. Are you an artist? Just for having the vision, let's say you never make anything because you can't. You don't have the skills. You just have a vision of what it should be. You have a very clear idea of what it should be. And if you knew somebody who had the skills, or you ever developed the skills yourself, you could absolutely make that vision manifest in some kind of physical form. Okay? But as you are, you can't do it. You do not have the skill to do it. You cannot make it happen. All you've got is the idea. Or let's put it in different terms. Let's say you have a story in your head. Okay? You have a story in your head. You know exactly how the plot is going to play out. You've thought through every detail. And in fact, if you had the skill of sitting down and writing it out, you have a full book. But you don't have that skill. You don't like writing prose. You're not good at it. You don't want to spend a bunch of time getting good at it. So the story, it lives up here, nowhere else. Are you a writer? No, you're not. You're not a writer because you haven't written anything and you don't want to write anything and you don't have the skill to write anything, so you're not a writer. Are you an author? Maybe. Depending on what you think author means, yeah, maybe you are. I mean, you have developed an entire story, a full plot. Maybe it's even a really good plot from beginning to end. Like, people would love it. It's great. Yeah, you're an author. For sure, I think. In that context. I mean, am I condoning ghostwriters? Sorta. I don't know that you can lump them all into one specific version. Like, did the ghostwriter come up with everything about the book? Did they just take cues from somebody else? I don't think it's great, personally, when somebody gets the credit on the front cover of a book, because they're the one who had the idea for the book, yet they didn't actually write any of it. I think that's pretty bad. I feel like the person who actually wrote the book should be getting some of the credit. And I know, for the ghostwriters out there, that's not a pragmatic thought, right? Like, the reason why the other guy's name is on there is because he's going to draw sales. People are interested in his thoughts and opinions. And the ghostwriter themselves, probably nobody even knows who they are, right? So they're not going to drive sales. People are not going to be interested in the book for their sake because they're kind of a nobody, right? Like me. Like nobody knows them. Nobody's looking forward to what they have to say. Nobody's thinking about them in any capacity at all. And if you put a book out under their name, it's probably not going to sell because people are going to be like, I don't know what that is. I don't know who that is. I don't know why I should be interested in it. We've got kind of this interesting thing going on in our culture where it's like we have more access to more stories than we've ever had before, right? Like that's part of the problem with even trying to get an agent is that agents are inundated with hundreds of thousands of submissions. And there isn't enough time in any given day, week, month, or year for an agent to ever make it through all of the manuscripts that are being sent their way to look at. Like they can't do it. It's too much. So there's more stories and more access to telling stories than ever before. And yet, at the same time, you can go out and hear people say things like, "Oh man, there's just no good stories anymore. Everything is just a rehash or a repeat of something that's already been done. People are playing it safe. There's not a lot of good original ideas out there. Blah blah blah." And I think, like when people are saying stuff like this, a lot of it is that they're talking about movies and television shows. And while there's a lot that goes into that, really, for movies and television shows, the reason why you get a lot of rehashed ideas and safe storylines is because it's very hard to tell what people are going to want to spend their money on. It's very hard to tell what's going to be popular. Um, Even the best people at it aren't that good. That's how I view it. Like sometimes you see something and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is great. Everybody's going to like this." And sometimes you see something and you think that and nobody likes it. Um, but the reason with movies and television shows primarily is because they're businesses. They very much exist to make money for the people involved. When you get involved with a movie on the financial side, and this is my understanding, so I could have some of the details wrong, but basically, you're just being asked to put up a bunch of money uh, on the chance that you're going to earn something from your investment. Like, help us put together $2 million. We're going to sell this movie in these markets, and we're pretty sure it's going to make $4 million in sales. So your 2 million is going to turn into 4 million. That's a pretty good return on investment. Um, you should definitely invest in this project. Okay, so the project itself is predicated on making money. It's not. It's not a. It is about the art, but it's not about the art at the same time. Like, it is the art that makes money, kind of, but it's also like some kind of vague interpretation of public perception that's making the money too. Like, I found this out. I'm not going to name the movie. That would, I think, I think that would be wrong. I found out on a movie that I worked on that there was actually a there was a ratio, I guess. There was a list that the producer was working off of, and the reason I found this out was because there was a lot of arguing about the content of the movie. They were putting some weird, salacious content in. Weird being, why did I say weird? Is because the writer of the movie, he didn't have any of that in the script. Like, that was not a part of his vision. It was like an action piece. Um, he had one scene that he had written, but I guess, like, he figured that was fine. That was enough. The one scene that he did was good enough. Um, that's what deserved to be in the movie. Uh, and the director of the movie, as far as I could tell, more or less agreed with this. He wasn't super happy about adding additional content, but the main producer, the guy running the show, he kept showing up on set and making notes on what they were doing. Like, oh, well, could she have less clothes on? Could she be sucking on something? Like, could we get a sucker involved in this situation? Something like that. I think that would be good. He kept doing this, and it was creepy and weird, and people were calling him creepy and weird, which I think is fair. Like, what he was doing was creepy and weird. I agree. But come to find out, because I was kind of complaining myself, and I was nobody in the production. Like, people cared about my complaints 0%, and they should have cared about my complaints 0%. Like, my complaints had nothing to do with anybody's life or the business that they were running. I was just jawing for the sake of making the time pass, as it were. But one of the guys that I worked with, he was like, this guy's not creepy or weird. You've got it all wrong. Do tell. What are you talking about? He was like, no, he's got a list. This movie is going to be 98 minutes long, and he's got a formula. And in that 98 minutes, we need so many X number of minutes of sexual content. He has developed this formula over years and years of working in the industry and selling these movies. He knows that the closer he gets to his formula, the more copies of this movie are going to be sold. He's trying to protect his investment. You see, that's kind of like that's like the coldest version of it being a business that I can think of, right? Because, like, the sense that this is creepy and weird is that this director, or I'm sorry, not director, this producer knew exactly what was going to make the money, and it was not the artistry of the project that was going to be making him money. Not at all. Not in any way. Like, what he cared about was making this formula manifest in the project. And once he accomplished that, and I think rightly, knew that he was going to make his money back. That's why it was important to him to hit those numbers, because he wanted to make his money back. That's what he was there to do, was make money off of this project. He wasn't doing all this legwork of gathering investors and pitching this project because he loved the story. He liked it. He liked it because he thought this is the kind of story people will want to watch. It's going to sell. People are going to be interested in it. It's going to make money. I like it. He's not evaluating the artistry of what the writer has created. That's not. I would venture a guess that that's never what was on his mind at any point in his career. It's certainly not in this production. What's on his mind is we need to make money so that people can get paid, so that we can keep talent in our group, so that we can keep making movies and keep making money. Not we need to make astonishing art that will stand the test of time. Like, that's a noble goal in some senses, and in other senses, it's kind of a masturbatory. I don't know, maybe that's a word you can't say, but it's sort of pointlessly self-serving, is what I mean. Yeah, you can make it really artistic, and you can put a timeless message in, and you can make it resonate with audiences today and audiences in the future. But if in doing that, you make a product that nobody's really interested in, and nobody's really going to watch, is it really worthwhile to do it? And by nobody, I mean the majority of people. There will definitely be people who will recognize it for what it is. But will it be worth it to have invested all the time and effort into the project? Well, let's put it another way, I guess, because that sounded really terrible. If you're going to get involved with work, because ultimately making movies is work, if you're going to get involved with doing some kind of work and you find out, maybe you've not even started the project yet, the work yet, but you find out all of a sudden, oh yeah, you're doing this for free, by the way. We're not paying you. Nobody's getting paid for this. You're just here to make this glorious thing that is going to stand the test of time. And we're hoping, generations from now, people are going to look back on this and say, wow, they did such a good job, making this statement, this piece of art. But you're definitely not getting paid. Like, we're going to take a month and a half of your time, and these are going to be like 18-hour days for a month and a half. And we're gonna spend millions of dollars on resources and sets, and all of that is just, heck, let's say it's your money. Who cares? It's somebody's money, and we're just, essentially, we're just spending it to make this thing happen. But there's no, like, you're not going to earn back any of the money. It's just going away. So you're going to do hard work for a month to make, this project. You're not going to earn any money from it. And we are going to take a significant amount of money from you to make this happen. And, and that's it. And then after the month, we're all going to walk away. We're going to pat ourselves on the back for doing such a good job. And that's that. And we're going to save you some money by not even marketing it, because we already know nobody's going to want to see it. Except for, a few people who will seek it out for what it is. All right. So that's the pitch. Are you jumping to get involved? I mean, certainly some people would. Some people would say, oh my gosh, I get to work on a movie. But, let's say working on movies is your life and you're living. This is how you put food on your table. This pitch that I just made is a terrible pitch. You're not going to get involved with this project because you probably need to eat. Um, you're probably going to say, "Best of luck. I hope it goes well for you," and walk away. And well, you should. I think. Well, you should. Um, because art is great, right? But you know, we all have responsibilities. People have to eat. This is a universally understood thing. So, of course, you're not going to be excited to get involved with a project that's going nowhere and making no money. Like, that just, of course. If you went to your 9 to 5 job tomorrow and they told you, hey, super glad you're here. We have a lot of exciting opportunities for you to develop your skills and show off what a hard worker you are. And also, you are no longer being paid. Are you staying? No. Maybe not your job. Maybe you have a job that you love. You adore the job. Like you're really into this job. You love it. But you got a family at home that you got to feed. And taking 8 hours out of your day to do something that you love with no financial benefit whatsoever isn't feasible. And beyond not being feasible, it's not possible. So, of course, you're not going to do it. There are some circumstances where you do it. Like, let's say you're unemployed and you haven't found another job yet. So, yeah, under that circumstance, you might do something that you love for some time, basically until you get another job. But it's not sustainable to just be doing something for free. That's just not a thing. It's not going to work out. So it's not necessarily bad that movies are a business. Um, that in some regards, that can be a healthy thing. It can inform decisions and mold outcomes. And in some senses, it can be a bad thing. But it's definitely a thing. Either way, it's a thing. Um, I think it's naive, sure, but maybe even wrong to say that it's not a thing when it so clearly is. Um, it so clearly and so definitely and so absolutely is a thing. People gotta eat. People should be getting paid for the work that they're doing. I feel like there's some pieces of this that should be dark and aren't. Like this right here. Like this should all be shaded, I think. And I think like this should have a little more to it here. Yes, I have fallen quiet. I ate a cookie at the beginning of when I started recording. I was in the middle of eating a cookie. And a cookie has sugar in it, and it has made me so tired. It's absolutely destroyed me. Um, all right, so I think, some more shading in here for sure. Uh, got a little more shading down here to do. I got to do something with his staff still. Um, Other than that, well, maybe some detail up here. But other than that, I think I'm pretty much done with this one. It's just about time to move on. A little more work to do, but we're almost there. I'm not even sure what I talked about today, so maybe it wasn't so significant. I don't know. Um, but well, there you go. It's me drawing.